Strawberries, you can get 250 grams for $5.80. So if we convert it to Australian dollars, that's $5.45. So you can actually get that cheaper in Australia at $3.50. Blueberries, you can get 125 grams for $3.50. So in Australian dollars, that's $3.29. The comparison that I have also at 125 grams is costing $4 in Australia. So slightly cheaper in New Zealand. And then for banana, you can get that for 93 centavos in New Zealand and 87 cents Australian dollars if you convert that. So slightly cheaper in Australia, where you can buy banana for 63 centavos each. But first, if we are just meeting, kia ora, kamusta? Welcome to Australia. I'm your host, Binibining Veronica. On my last video, I talked about what it's like living in Australia. And on this video, I thought it'll be interesting to have specific comparison of the cost of grocery items in New Zealand versus Australia. Disclaimer, obviously it's difficult to have an exact comparison, but I shall try my best. And for your reference, these are all items from Woolworths in New Zealand, so previously known as Countdown, versus Woolworths in Australia, or commonly referred to as Woolies. Now, I have compared items which is the same or close enough to each other, but obviously if you are shopping for your own household, you have the option to choose your preferred brand and price point, and also there are other shops in New Zealand and Australia which may offer similar or lower price for the product you are after, and we will discuss that later in this video. Alright, let's carry on. For cucumbers, 350 grams, we have it as $3. So in New Zealand, if I convert it to Australia, so $2.82. Slightly more expensive in Australia, and even for like a lighter weight. So it's coming at $3.50 for 100 gram less. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the fruits and vegetables that I included in this presentation are just the items that we always get whenever we shop. I don't know, we just always have these items in our fridge most of the time. Please do not judge me. Next, onions. So it's looking, in this presentation, I chose brown onions just because I prefer that. It's 50 centavos each. In New Zealand dollars, converting it to Australian dollars, 47 AUD. And then in Australia, we have one for 59 centavos each. So looking like it's again cheaper in New Zealand for brown onions. And like I said, there's also some things that will be on special in New Zealand. So it'll be slightly cheaper, for example, for the time when I was looking these things up. So just take that into consideration. And then ginger, obviously I will not buy it in kilograms, but it's there, $14.49 per kg, or around $13.61 AUD. And then more expensive in Australia, looking at $27 per kilogram. Okay. Carrots, 30 cents each in New Zealand. So you're looking at 28 Australian dollars. Again, cheaper, looking like it's cheaper in New Zealand at the moment, because in Australia, it's looking at 35 centavos each. Broccoli, $2.99 each. So that's $2.81 AUD. And then in Australia, it's for sale for $3.14. So again, cheaper in New Zealand. At the moment anyway. Spinach, yummy spinach. We got 250 grams, $6.80 in New Zealand dollars. If I convert it to Australian dollars, it's $6.39. And then for a slightly heavier bag, you can get it for $5. And the only reason why I actually converted the New Zealand dollars to Australian dollars, because there is some difference. So I just wanted it, I guess, for a more easier point of comparison. So if I buy the same or slightly heavier bag in New Zealand, it's gonna cost like $1.39 more, if that makes sense somehow. And then lettuce, so iceberg lettuce, you can get that $2.80 in New Zealand. And then In Australia, you can get it for $2.50, so slightly cheaper by 13 centavos if you're counting by the centavo. So from this table, you can actually see that there are some items which are cheaper in Australia and other items which are more expensive. And then there are also some products which are similar in price. But like I mentioned, there are other shops in New Zealand where you can buy your fruits and your veggies, and depending on the type or brand, the price may also vary. So for example, in New Zealand, you can shop at Pack and Save or New World or your local fresh market where they have stands in the park usually on a weekend. In Australia, there are also other shops available. Obviously, there's Costco for everything else cheaper. There's Coles, Aldi, and IGA. And if you live around north of Brisbane, my friend also mentioned this shop. It's called T-Bones Fresh Food Market. I think this is at Aspley. They often have specials offered. Example, we have winter melon, 88 cents per kilo. Fresh garlic, 88 cents per kilo. I don't know, maybe you're scared of vampires. Decorate the house with garlic. And then there's grapes for $2.99. And by the way, if you are enjoying this video, then please make sure to hit subscribe and turn on your notification bell so you will know when I upload new videos just like this one. And if you want to support the channel, click that super thanks icon at the bottom of the video, or simply buy me a coffee by clicking the link below. And the link is buymeacoffee.com/Binibining Ver. It helps so much when you donate to the channel. It helps me carry on with whatever I'm doing in YouTube, and so I really appreciate that. Alternatively, a big thumbs up also goes a long way. Salamat po. Now, next question that we'd like to tackle for this video: how much does it cook to cook adobo? New Zealand versus Australia. Oh, randomly. So if you are after Filipino recipes, especially if you are living abroad, I found that Panlasang Pinoy, the website and YouTube account, they're very good resources. And anyway, let's look at the cost of our ingredients for today's video. But like I said, Panlasang Pinoy if ever you want to have some Filipino recipes. Alright, looking at New Zealand Woolworths/Countdown. So for chicken, chicken wings, 0.7 to 1.2 kg, approximately $12.65 each tray. But for this example, it's $11 per kilogram. If we convert that into AUD, that's $10.33, right about the same price, I would say, for the chicken wings that we have for Australia Woolies. And then for garlic, single, I'm not sure how much this $4.20 is, like how many garlic bulb they have. But for Australia, they have $1. They have it for $1.65 garlic head each. So that's $3.30 for 3 pieces. I know that in the New Zealand website, they are selling $4 for 5 pieces. So you're looking at maybe around $3.94 Australian dollars. So I would say it's slightly cheaper in New Zealand Woolworths. But like you've seen, there are other shops which sell garlics cheaper if you can be bothered to shop for a cheaper price. And then we have chicken broth cube. So this one is $4 at $3.75 AUD. Slightly cheaper in Australia, $2.30. And if you are Filipino, I know by now you're nagging like, where's the Knorr cubes? I'll show you where to buy Filipino products later. Okay, don't be angry just yet. Lemons, so $2.40 in New Zealand. If I convert that, that's $2.25 in Australian dollars. Cheaper in Australia, we have it for $1.91 centavo each. Pepper, in New Zealand, they're selling it in box of 35 grams at $2.40. In Australia, they're selling it at 190 grams, so that's why it's more expensive at $7. However, if you actually look like the per 10 grams of the weight, they're selling it 0.65 AUD, and then it's cheaper in Australia at 37 centavos. I don't know. If you're into pepper, Australia is cheaper. And the brand Saxa is actually good as well. I feel like anyway. Greg is also good. So if you're new to New Zealand, they have like spices. It's really nice. Alright, soy sauce. Again, because we've taken all of these ingredients at Woolworths, they don't have Silver Swan or Dato Puti. For my Filipino friends, do not be angry. I'll show you later where to get those products. But for the purpose of this video, let's try 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿 soy sauce. 500 mils is for $4.70 New Zealand dollars. So in Australian dollars, it's $4.41. Cheaper in Australia at $3.40. But like I said, it just depends on what items are on special. So at the moment, it is cheaper because it is for on a discounted price. But normally, it's $4.30. So they're round about the same, I guess. Vinegar, DYC vinegar, $3 for 750 mil. So you're looking at $2.82, which is cheaper to the Australian version of $3.50 for a 750 ml Cornwall's white vinegar. Now, I couldn't really find DYC vinegar online. I'm not sure why, because I feel like we have a DIC vinegar in my pantry right now. But anyway, I've just chosen this for comparison purposes. Bay leaves. This one is 5 grams, $3.30. And then this one is 15 grams for $1.80. So definitely cheaper because it is on special at the moment. Cooking oil. So we have the canola oil here as an example. Obviously, you can use whatever oil you like, but just for the purpose of comparison, you can get it $11.50 in New Zealand, but converted to Australian dollars, it's $10.79. So slightly cheaper in Australia at $7.20. And that's for 2 liters of canola oil. And then when you shop at Woolworths or Woolies, you can get like small bag of rice. In Australia, they're actually selling it in like bigger bags. But anyway, it's $3.10 for 1 kg of jasmine rice in New Zealand. So that's $2.91 in Australia. Slightly more expensive in Woolies in Australia for $3.35. Okay, so now... If you are after specific Filipino brands, say the Silver Swan for soy sauce or Dato Puti for vinegar or a bigger sack of jasmine rice, they are readily available. So in New Zealand, most major cities will have a Filipino store. That's true for Auckland, Tauranga, Rotorua, Hamilton, Hawke's Bay, Wellington, and Christchurch. I haven't visited like all of New Zealand, so I'm not too sure. Leave a comment below where you are living in New Zealand. Do you have a Filipino store? Write the address, promote the shop. Let's help each other. In Australia, I haven't really traveled a lot, but just for your reference, in Metro Queensland, there's lots of Filipino store. There's smaller shops near Brisbane CBD. I think it's called Kabayan Filipino Store. But they have a bigger branch located in Acacia Ridge, which is about 20 minutes drive from Brisbane CBD. And then there's my favorite one at Deception Bay. It's called JD Pinoy. Not sponsor, but I'm just a fan. You do have to drive north of Brisbane, though, and this is like 45 kilometers from Brisbane CBD. But this is my all-time favorite Filipino store. It tops even the Filipino stores I've been with in New Zealand. Just because they carry more of our local brands. There's more options. It's definitely like way spacious. Plus, it's actually closer to where we are living now, so it's also convenient for us. Alternatively, if Filipino items are not your thing and you just like other Asian brands, they are also readily available in other Asian stores. And drop down below, I guess, your favorite Korean, Japanese, or Indian shops where you buy your local ingredients, either in New Zealand and Australia. I'm sure that'll be of good help to the other migrants as well. Some sort of comfort, I guess, that they can buy local products here in New Zealand or Australia. Now, let's look at other grocery staples like eggs. So, a carton of 12-pack costs $9.30 in New Zealand. So, it's $8.73 if we convert it to Australian dollars. And you can get that cheaper in Australia for $5.40. By the way, when I was looking for the prices online, I couldn't really set a specific store location in New Zealand and Australia, so I'm not sure if there will be any difference if you buy it on a different store location with New Zealand. Like, I mean, if you buy it from Auckland versus Tauranga, New Zealand, I'm not sure if there will be a price difference. And same thing with Australia, because when I was looking it up online, it didn't ask for the location, and I don't know where to change the location. I wasn't sure where the option was anyway. Bread, 700 grams of white loaf bread, 397 New Zealand dollars, so that's 373 Australian dollars. Slightly more expensive in Australia at 440. Butter, I was gonna say roundabout the same, but slightly cheaper in Australia at $4.79 for the same 500-gram butter. And then for the milk, cheaper in Australia at 450 Australian dollars for 3 liters of milk. And then if you are into alternative milk like me, my favorite is this So Good almond milk. Not a sponsor, I'm just a fan. Definitely way cheaper in Australia at $2 compared to $4.70 Australian dollars in New Zealand. Coffee, I love this hazelnut Nescafe. I feel like I'm just like promoting products now. Sponsor this YouTube channel, please. Keeps the light and the internet going. Cheaper in Australia at $11, slightly more expensive. I think they're both boxes of 26 sachets, right? So slightly cheaper in Australia at $11. And then in terms of beef, grass-fed. So 400-gram tray, actually more expensive in Australia at $10 compared to $8.69 Australian dollars in New Zealand. And then pork, way expensive in New Zealand. Why is that? I'm not sure why pork is more expensive. 500 grams, so it's already in special in New Zealand, but it's still $17.30 compared to 16. So if I convert that, that's $16.25 in AUD, but it's only $8.50 in Australia. Interesting. Salmon, it's $8 in New Zealand. Slightly cheaper in New Zealand at $7.51. Mussels, I love mussels. Slightly cheaper in Australia at $7. Canned tuna, if you prefer that, slightly cheaper in New Zealand at $2.54 AUD compared to the local $2.95. Now again, I couldn't find Sea Lord brand for Woolies in Australia, so I got Sirena. Sirena is actually a good brand, and I prefer with tuna. I prefer the lemon pepper flavor. If you haven't tried it, try it. It's really nice, at least for me anyway. But obviously you can get, if you really like tunas, you can get that cheaper as well. They're selling it in Australia for $1.10 as well. And then if your source of protein is more beans and legumes, then there's also like canned beans like chickpeas, $1.31 AUD, and then $1 AUD in Australia, so slightly cheaper. If you really like beans though, random, and you don't prefer the canned version, at Coles they actually sell a lot of like in a bag that you have to cook, that you have to soak and cook. So if you prefer beans that doesn't come out in a can, then I think Coles is a better way to go, because they have more option. I feel like when I last look at our local shops. Anyway, and then there's just a little thing that I'd like to add. In Australia, if you are a member of a union, say a nurses union like Queensland, you can also get gift cards at a discounted price. So for example, for a Woolworths gift card, you can get 4% off. So for $100, you pay $96. For $500, you pay $480. It's not a lot, I guess, unless you are really shopping in bulk, in a fortnight or once a month. But it's there if you want to get the 4% discount. And then I think in New Zealand, they have like a membership discount in Woolworths in New Zealand, but I can't remember if I ever was a member before. Drop down in the comment section below if you are a member and if you feel like it's worth it. And then going back to the gift card, so my husband and I tried this before, especially when we know we are going to shop for a lot and that it's going to be over $100. It's not much, but like I said, it's there if you want it. And then let me know if you want to talk more about Union Shopper. So like the benefits that you get, the discounts, the gift cards in other shops, and I'll create a separate video about that. In New Zealand, we have Nurses Union, but they don't really have like a union member discount for like dining or shopping or insurance and stuff like that. So I found that interesting. Now, when it comes to toiletries and hygiene products, I can still compare it using the Woolworths New Zealand versus Woolies Australian table, but just know there is cheaper option, which I will show you later in this video. So, for example, if you're going to buy this brand for body wash, it is expensive at $28.17, but way cheaper in Australia at $15.60 for the same 1 liter container. And then soap, this one is slightly expensive at $4.20, but like I said, there's a cheaper option in Australia, so just hold your horses. And then baby bath bedtime, cheaper in Australia at $6.50. Lotion, way cheaper in Australia at $13.60. Only because, again, this particular item is on special. Same thing with babies moisturizing lotion. Toothpaste, slightly expensive at $6 versus $5.15 in New Zealand. But if you prefer the Sensodyne brand, then it's cheaper at $7.35. So like I said, if you are living in Australia, personally, I think if you are going to get your toiletries, your hygiene products, it's way cheaper at Chemist Warehouse. So you know how the body wash, for example, Aveeno body wash is at $28.17 AUD converted if you get it to New Zealand. You can actually get that for $12.99 at Chemist Warehouse. Same with the bar of soap for $3.49. The Johnson's brand are kind of similar with Woolies in Australia, $6.59. But definitely the Aveeno brand is cheaper at Chemist Warehouse. And then same thing, the Sensodyne toothpaste though, more expensive for some reason. But even like your sunscreen, I feel like it's cheaper at Chemist Warehouse. And this is the same brand that I use. Obviously, if you are living in Australia, you have to have sunscreen. Same thing with New Zealand. Sunscreen is really important. And even with the kids, they have kids version. I've accidentally used like my sunscreen to my daughters, for my daughters, and she got some irritation. So just be mindful that if you have kids, then opt for the specifically created kids formulation, only because some of the formulation can be irritant to kids. Obviously, it's, understandable, but sometimes, when you're exhausted, things get mixed up. And then foaming cleanser, I really like the CeraVe one, but you can get it at Chemist Warehouse. They also have a facial moisturizer. If you have specific, condition, there is options there for QV, daily eczema, daily cream for maintenance purposes. And then there's also another brand, parang competitor to ng CeraVe, Cetaphil. It's also good and way cheaper. For $18.99 for the facial cleanser and moisturizer. And if you're a bit maybe in a high-end konti, ganyan, there's also La Roche-Posay, of course. So they have the wash cleanser there, and then they have the sunscreen at $25.99. And then random, if you are into skincare, the most important thing is definitely just to wash your face, moisturize, and sunscreen. But if you are following like Asian beauty trends, for your reference, in New Zealand they have �W𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿. I feel like that's they're really reliable in terms of like delivering. Even in the middle of pandemic, they were so good with delivering on time. I think the prices are not too bad. In Australia, at least in Queensland, I think the counter company would alternative company, because we don't have �W𝐿𝐿𝐿 here, will be Lila Beauty. They also carry Korean brands, Japanese brands if you're into that. But personally, because I am trying to save more, I try to diet. I try to wean off of some of the products that I used to buy before. So now I just opt for the Chemist Warehouse. They are good alternatives, actually. And like I said, for cosmetic products, you can get it on special at Warehouse Chemist. We were recently on a vacation in the Philippines, and I got some cosmetic products in the mall, SM. Only because I'm not really into cosmetics as such. I don't know what brand to use, how to put the makeup on, or anything like that. But it was just so good to have another person, put the makeup on, make recommendations on what to get. And so she recommended some Revlon products. This is in SM Philippines, ha. And then when I got back to Brisbane, it was actually way cheaper to get those Revlon products from our local Chemist Warehouse. But never mind, because I wouldn't be able to, I guess, choose those products myself, because I wouldn't know which one looks great or whatever. But just know that Warehouse Chemist is a really good place to shop for toiletries, hygiene products, and even makeups, things like that. Off topic na, no? Question of the day: what is your favorite skincare product? Let me know in the comment section below. Okay, and then last portion, let's talk about detergent cleaning. So we have detergent powder here, slightly cheaper in Australia at $6.50 for the same brand, for the same weight. And then on the other hand, if you're into fabric softener, they have it cheaper in New Zealand at the moment. I think this is on sale. And then dishwashing liquid, slightly cheaper in New Zealand. And then Scotch Brite, if you need that for your dishwashing, it is cheaper in Australia at $5. But even if you feel like $5 is too much for the sponge, you can also get like other brand. Like I said, it'll be cheaper, or you can get it from $2 shop as well. Insect killer, slightly more expensive in Australia. Tissue, slightly more expensive in Australia. Depending on what you're going to get. I couldn't really find a direct comparison. But for this one, I have one from New Zealand, $12, 2-ply, and then Australia, I got 3-ply for $13.60, and then if you convert the $12 to Australian dollars, it's $11.27. Toilet cleaner, slightly cheaper in Australia. Hand wash soap, way more expensive in... Oh, sorry. Only because this was 950 mils, and then the other one is 500 mils. Okay, so round about the same. $7 still. $7 versus $10. So I think still more expensive in Australia. Okay, so before starting this little exercise, I personally felt like we can definitely buy more products in Australia compared to New Zealand, and therefore I was under the impression that it must be cheaper here in Australia then. However, as we were going through like some of the examples, like there are some things which are definitely more expensive here, like the cucumber, brown onion, and ginger apparently. So for my friends visiting from New Zealand to Australia, alam na, maybe don't bring chocolate, maybe bring ginger for me instead. So that was really interesting. And even like the carrots and then the broccoli, they're slightly more expensive in Woolworths Australia versus Woolworths New Zealand. But like I said, if you really want to shop for something cheaper, there's like heaps of options. They also have, if you are living Brisbane North area, they also have weekend market. I think it's at Carsaldine as well. Haven't checked it out yet. I might in the next coming days, hopefully. But there's definitely alternative. And then for toiletries, hygiene products, it's cheaper to get at Chemist Warehouse anyway. So yeah, it's a surprising little activity. Good to know if you are, if you're heading to Australia just because of cheaper prices, then just know, I guess, that it's not a direct comparison, that if I shop at Woolies Australia, it'll be cheaper compared to Woolies New Zealand, because as we have explored today, it's not directly that. in saying that, it is equally true that there is inflation in Australia and that things have increased in price. However, I think because we've come from New Zealand and the products that we usually get are, I still find like the whole total of our expenses in terms of getting groceries, I feel like it's still cheaper here in Australia compared to New Zealand because, like I said, we don't usually buy everything at Woolies anyway. We do shop around a little bit and we do opt for a cheaper brand as well. And then another point I think is because a lot of the things that I prefer or that we prefer to get as a family comes in cheaper here in Australia. So for example, husband and I, we prefer to have the almond milk, but if we get that in New Zealand, it's gonna be more expensive, and we always have strawberries for snacks or for breakfast, so that it'll be expensive in New Zealand. So I think in New Zealand I don't even buy fruits that much, but I guess again there are multiple factors. I am aging so my preferences to extend my life may have changed as well. All right. And then on another note, I also get asked about the salary, and I previously talked about that in my other videos, but more than the dollar per dollar value that you earn, it's also important to take note of the actual take-home pay, the tax that gets deducted, and then the option for Australian nurses working in public hospitals to have salary packaging. So I guess those are the things that you also have to consider. If you want to know more about salary packaging, let me know in the comment section below and I'll try to create a video about that. But for now, if you found this video helpful, then share it. Share it to your friends or watch my other video about buying your first furniture in Australia. As always, I wish you all the best with your journey and I hope you will be blessed. I'll see you soon. Bye!